The movie begins with a man narrating a story who says, on October 13, 1972, a Uruguayan plane with rugby players from a team known as the Old Christians Club crashed in the Andean mountain range. He further says 40 of them, the passengers and 5 crew members, were on board. He then asks himself, what happens when the world abandons you? When you have no clothes and you're freezing, when you have no food and you're dying? Then he replies to himself, the answers are in the mountain. We then go back to the past where we see rugby players who are playing. Their team captain Marcelo is asking Roberto to pass the ball to Nando. Roberto doesn't pass the ball to Nando and only just runs towards the finishing line, but is unfortunately swept away by the opponents before reaching. After the game, Roberto is criticized by their captain on why he didn't pass the ball to Nando during the match, as Roberto tries to defend himself. Their captain then tells them they are to travel soon using a plane for a special match. The next day during Mass, it's confirmed that the rugby team is to go to country Chile for a special match. We are taken to a group of Numa, Pancho, Gaston, and Alfredo who are excited about their travel to Chile. Numa tells Pancho, Gaston, and Alfredo he has a final law test and may not be able to travel with them. But Pancho instead told him he has to go anyway.
Iniciando este fin de semana largo.
They are all ready for the journey and have come for the flight. They then take their last photo before the plane takes off. We then hear Numa in the background saying, my name is Numa Turcati. I'm 24 years old. It's great that all these guys get to go. I look around and I barely know anyone here, but at the same time it all feels familiar. Most of them are young, like me, lovingly raised in houses near the sea. For some of them, it's their first trip away from home. After a few hours, their plane creaks a bit as their friend explains to them. The problem is due to a mountain range difference and, as he still explains, for the second time, the plane creaks heavily. As the airplane announcer announces that they are to arrive in Santiago in a few minutes. They are then told to fasten their seat belts and the ones behind are ordered to go in front. The situation worsens as they are all nervous, with some are flying up and down. The plane finally crashes to the ground. Roberto is checked upon to see if he is fine. Eduardo is also checked upon by Marcelo to see if he is fine. One of them is also crying and saying, I don't want anyone to die. Roberto also relocates a dislocated bone of an unknown fella. Numa and team try to ask an almost dead pilot on how to make a call on the radio, but unfortunately the radio is broken.
La temperatura baja 30 grados. Matar el frío. Vivos y muertos.
It's night and they all have to sleep as their captain Marcelo tells them not to fall asleep, or else they will die. It's morning and Marcelo, their team captain, is inquiring about their current location, but no one knows. They also realize that they have lost their friends. Pancho, Abal, and Martinez Lamas have died, plus also the lady who was screaming in the plane. Marcelo further says Gaston also got sucked out of the plane when the tail broke off. Daniel and Guido Alexis are also dead. Nando's sister is also very weak, and apparently they have nowhere to take care of the injured. Marcelo orders them to make a room inside the plane to care for the injured. Marcelo also gives them instructions on how to clean and prepare the room for the injured. Marcelo also tells Roberto to search for anything they may need from all their luggage. Put it into a single suitcase. They then collect all dead bodies, which are to be buried into the snow. Marcelo also serves them some of the collected snacks. Day 2, October 14th, 1972. They have now gathered some strength and are fighting on fixing the plane and block all passages to prevent snow from entering. Day 3, October 15th, 1972. Nando gains consciousness and asks what happened as they explain to him. He also asks for his sister Susie and they show her to him. She is also unconscious. Nando asks where his mom is as Roberto replies to him she died. Nando gets memories of when he was leaving for this trip with his mom, as they said goodbye to his dad. Nando also asks for how long they have been there as Marcelo replies 3 days. Nando also inquires whether anyone has come to rescue them as they all just keep quiet. They then get to the outside and try to set their bags, in a way to receive help from any plane passing by. A plane is seen passing by and everyone shouts with joy and happiness as they welcome the rescuers. Unfortunately, the plane just bypasses them. They then begin to talk about different kinds of foods they would like to eat, for example chivito, milanesas, etc. They further work on the injured ones, providing to them a more comfortable place to sleep, as they listen to other plane engines whirring in distance. This time the whirring fades as the planes move to a far distance from them. This makes them lose hope for the second time. Marcelo further boosts their faith by adding it to those who have lost it. They also notice they have less time to survive in the cold. As Numa tries to figure out something, he remembers the batteries and the tale of the plane Roque told them about, and they see it as an opportunity for them to live longer. Carlitos, Fito, Numa and Roberto hit the road to the first place their plane crashed to get the batteries. But before they reach the place, they first stop and realize that from a distance, no one can see their plane from that distance, and maybe that's why rescuers didn't see them. They also watch breaking and falling snow piles and so go back to where they came from, their plane. After spending 5 days without food, they split the last packet of crackers and eat it and are now waiting for their death, or hunt for whatever they can see and eat it as food. Others try to eat dried wound pills on others' bodies. Fido talks to his friend and tells him what Carlitos told him about Nando. He says Nando told Carlitos he will not starve to death and will eat dead bodies, if that's what it takes for him to survive. Fido also says he told Carlitos they all don't have any other option apart from eating dead bodies. And it's like Fido and the friend have both agreed to start eating dead bodies, if that's what it takes to survive. The next day, the remaining team is contemplating on whether to eat dead bodies they buried in snow, or starve to death before help arrives. Roberto, Nando, Fido and team support the idea of eating the dead bodies outside their plane as the lady. Marcelo and team are not agreeing with it. Some members on Roberto's team also explain they are peeing black pee, a sign of almost starving and almost dying. They also continue to eat whatever is left, such as shoelaces, cigarettes, etc. Nando's sister also dies. Coco then writes a letter to his mom and dad which reads, "Dear Mom and Dad, 8 days after the plane crashed, we're in a beautiful place, completely surrounded by mountains with a lake nearby that will unfreeze when the thaw starts. We're all doing fine. As of now, there are 27 survivors. Nando Parado's sister passed away today. I miss you very much."
Por lo menos.
Nando then buries his sister. Another guy called Moncho is soon dying. Day 9th, October 21st, 1972.
Muero, les doy permiso para alimentarse de mi cuerpo.
Fido officially gives everyone permission to feed on his body if he dies. Roberto also officially gives permission to everyone to feed on his body when he dies as well, and other to give permissions as well. As they start feeding on dead bodies, Numa is overwhelmed at fight sight of his friends feeding on dead bodies. They all have to begin feeding on dead bodies. They tell Marcelo they don't have a choice.
Mires así, coche.
Siempre, Daniel.
Los primos Strauch se encargan del trabajo más. Fito es quien elige los cuerpos. Apartados de la mitad.
The next day, they resume on finding help. They then find a briefcase in snow containing a radio. They search for signal and listen to news. Pancho also approaches Numa and asks him to take a bite at meat of a dead body, as he has spiced it up by wrapping it in snow, but Numa hesitates. Pancho says Numa has to eat, but Numa replies, "It's not right." As they are still talking, They listen to news on radio which says the search for the Uruguayan plane that crashed in the Andean mountain range with the rugby team Old Christians has come to an end. In the 10 days required by the protocol, 66 search and rescue missions were conducted, using 17 planes from the Chilean Air Force as well as aircrafts of the Uruguayan and Argentinian Air Forces, but to no avail. Search efforts will resume early next year, when the thawing of the ice will provide better conditions of visibility to find the wreckage. Marcelo finally accepts their fate and understands that no one will come to rescue them. He also now encourages them to eat dead bodies to survive. Numa, Gustavo, and Maspins continue searching for the tail of the plane without telling anyone. They need the batteries for the airplane communication radio. They also find Gaston's dead body, Daniel Shaw's body, and Alexis Honey's body.
Acá estoy. No sé estas cosas acá. La cola no debe estar lejos.
Night falls as they are trapped in the snow, so they have to hide from coldness.
El sol derritió la nieve y nos hundimos hasta las rodillas. Apenas podemos abandonar.
When they are back, Numa this time has to eat human flesh to survive or die. Numa's voice in the background also says, "I don't chew more than 2 or 3 times. And I force myself to swallow." For the first time, I imagine the possibility that feels increasingly real of not getting back home. But I look at Nando and I feel hope. He trains every day, obsessed with the ideas of going beyond the mountains then to the valleys of Chile. Day 17th, they all start the day by making laughing jokes of all sorts to keep themselves happy.
Tragedia se desata desde mi hamaca. Y aunque a veces me gana la ira.
De frío. Qué afortunado es Coco, no te vayas acostumbrando.
As they are still conversing, a blast of snow hits their plane with intense pressure and all of them are covered with snow. As they are still conversing, a blast of snow hits their plane with intense pressure and all of them are covered with snow. They then start one by one to race surface as they roll call and find those who are still alive. Arturo is alive, Javier's alive. Lily Anna is gone. Pedro Algorta is alive. Moncho is alive. Coco is dead. Fido is alive. Diego is gone and Roque is also gone. Nando is alive. Enrique and Juan Carlos are dead. Tintin is alive. Marcelo has also died. They then start one by one to race surface as they roll call and find those who are still alive. Arturo is alive. Javier's alive. Lily Anna's gone. Pedro Algorta is alive. Moncho is alive. Coco is dead. Fido is alive. Diego is gone. Nando is alive. Tintin is alive. Marcelo Perez has died.
Días esperando un momento como este. Un segundo de sosiego.
¿Cuánto creen que vamos a estar acá?
Others who have died include Carlos Roque, Juan Carlos Mendez, Enrique Platero, Lily Ana Navarro, Diego Storm, Daniel Maspins. Day 18, they have now been buried under snow for 2 days. They continue with feeding on their fellow dead ones.
Después de todo lo que pasamos.
Numa hurts himself as he tries to kick the mirror to open, as they want to get out of the snow in which they are buried. On day 20, they finally get to the outside and see the sun for the first time. They are filled with joy. They then dig up their plane structure and also continue discussing more on how to survive.
Nada más.
Guarda energías para vos, Numa.
Es Arturo.
Ahora que sos un monaguillo.
Day 34, Arturo is sick with an unknown disease. His lungs are filled with a certain fluid.
Subámosle la ropa despacio. Le doy 3 días. Albahaca un par más.
Arturo Nogueira also dies. Four of them then volunteer and head downhill towards Argentina with warmer clothes, in hopes of finding the tail of the plane and then the batteries. Numa's wound, which was caused by the glass cut, is infected, and as a result, it weakened him and he falls down. He heads back to the plane structure alone as others proceed to East Argentina.
No podemos cargar. ¿Dónde están los demás? Ya estás acá, estás con nosotros. ¿Qué pasó? Mírame. Tu papá está acá.
Rafael Vasco is also sick as Daniel tries to comfort him but ends up dying.
Momento en el que nos caímos acá, yo traté de ayudar en todo.
The team of the three is back from the plane's tail location, and Nando narrates to Numa how their journey went. He says they walked for 3 hours towards the east until suddenly they found the plane tail. He also got a piece of chocolate for him.
Pará, con tu papel no. Qué milagro. Estaban en la... Más fácil traer la radio para acá. Bueno, Roberto está convencido de que puede hacer funcionarla.
Nando, Roberto, Tintin, and Roy again head back to the plane. They then try to figure out the radio transmitter and send signal as Roberto speaks, saying, "We're the Uruguayans who crash-landed in the Andes. Can you hear me? We're still here. Hello," but unfortunately they don't receive a feedback.
Cada día que pasa, Perdemos un poquito de comida, no alcanzan y saqueamos los huesos. Hable. Se convirtió en habitual.
Rindas ahora.
No me estoy rindiendo, Pancho. No podré hacer más por usted.
Pensá en vos.
Pancho feeds Numa with live flesh, who responds he is soon dying anyway, says he doesn't need meat, as they all painfully embrace each other.
Tengo ganas de todo, Pancho.
Day 29th, November 1972. 17 survivors left. Back to the tail of the plane, Roberto again tries figuring out the radio, but to no avail. Tintin also finds a waterproof fabric used to cover pipes, which he takes to the plane structure. They then listen to news which says 58 days after the disappearance of the Fairchild 571 aircraft from the Uruguayan Air Force with 40 passengers and 5 crew members, chartered to transport a rugby team from the Old Christians Club and their companions to Chile. The local Air Force has specially equipped a C-47 aircraft to resume the search in the Andean mountain range. After listening to the news, they do not react anyway because by this time, they have completely lost hope and don't think the rescuers will see them anyway. Roberto is instead further upset and also tears the fabric they are sewing. They then try to obstruct their minds by mimicking bird sounds, that is to say, Fido and Pancho mimic different bird sounds.
Chocho.
Tintin then takes photos of them using the camera they got.
Tiene recuerdos de un viaje que tiene fecha de regreso. ¿Para quién serán esas imágenes? O para otras personas que ahora mismo no recuerdan. Y al mirar las fotos, volveremos a exactamente las mismas preguntas que nos hacemos nosotros. ¿Qué nos pasó? ¿Quiénes fuimos a la montaña?
Numa breaks down in front of Nando as he tells him he is prepared of what is coming and tells Nando he is happy they are going to make it. By these words, it's like as if Numa is trying to tell Nando he is to soon sacrifice his body for their well-being, so that the rest of them can make it. Finally, Numa Turcotti dies in his sleep, as he is holding a cheat in his hands, reading "There's no greater love than to give one's life for friends." Roberto then tells others they are to leave the place the next day. Coach, Roberto, and Carlitos then hug as they have prepared to leave the place. Nando also hugs Carlitos. Day 61, a team of 3. Nando, Roberto, and Tintin set to walk to West Chile in hopes of finding a way back to their homes, or to anyone who can help them. Nando also gives permission to others to eat dead bodies of his mom and his sister Sussy, for they have to live longer and survive. After they have struggled to reach the peak of the first mountain, they are surprised to find out that there are just still more mountains to climb, and at this moment, it's like they have lost hope. Roberto thinks they have died already, but Nando tries to give him more hope. Roberto thinks of going back, but Nando insists they have to carry on as he believes. At some point in their journey, the mountains will end and the snow will end. Nando assures Roberto they are close to the valley and need like 10 to 12 days to reach. Roberto tells Nando they are only left with food for a week, but Nando tells him they have no option.
Los Andes se tienen que terminar en algún momento. Ahí detrás está el mar. Lo tenemos a nuestros pies. ¿Qué puede ser?
Tintin agrees with Nando and Roberto to go back to the plane, so that their remaining food would last long for the two. It's now only Nando and Roberto remaining on this journey.
Parece que ahí ya no hubiera nieve. Bien, están perfectos. Tienen comida como para 10 días.
Again and again, Nando and Roberto reach several mountain cliffs. As they descend, Nando's shoe is torn and Roberto wraps part of the waterproof fabric on it. At night, Roberto throws up. In the morning, they reach the riverside filled with less snow and fresh water and some mammals. Nando shows Roberto a lizard. At the same time, Roberto then sees a stranger on a horse. They try to call him as Roberto shouts were from a plane that crashed in the mountains. But sounds made by the riverfall can't enable both parties to listen to each other. So the man wraps a paper on a stone and throws it to them to write what they want. Nando then writes, "I'm from a plane that crashed in the mountains. I'm Uruguayan. We've been walking through the snow for 10 days. There are 14 injured and stranded people in the plane. We need to get out of here fast, and we don't know how." The man then takes them to his house, and they are fed with excellent meals for the first time. The news has reached the Air Rescue Service Center, which sends rescue groups, journalists, news reporters, and other people. On the other side, the other team also listens to the good news on radio of rescuers who are coming to rescue them. They are filled with joy and happiness and so prepared to get rescued. Day 71, the 22nd of December 1972. The other team is also rescued as the reader reads names of the survivors. Roberto Canessa, Gustavo Zerbino, Eduardo Strauch, Alvaro Mangino, Fernando Parado, Antonio Vizintin, Pedro Elgorta, Alfredo Delgado, Roy Harley, Jose Luis Inchardi, Ramon Sabella, Javier Methel, Carlitos Miguel Paez, my son, Carlitos Miguel Paez, my son. This is the reader's son. Next, Roberto Francois, Daniel Fernandez, Adolfo Strauch,
16 sobrevivientes, palabras. Esta no es.
They are then welcomed by the society, their parents plus friends, and are all medically examined. They also take several showers to become clean. The movie ends.
Quieren hacer daño. Preguntan los periodistas con su... Preguntan los médicos con sus exámenes. De los héroes de los Andes. Su madre. Porque estuvieron muertos como... Y al recordarnos, nos volvimos juntos. Denle a ustedes el sentido. Ustedes son la respuesta. Y cuenten.